time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts I've healed our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts I've healed our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith.
Okay, welcome to RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm RenéMarie. Judy, it should be streaming on your page right now.
Yes.
I logged it on again. I did it twice. Anybody that wants to share it, it's on my Facebook page, so you're more than welcome to join us. Otherwise, you could always do it later on. We have an incredible show today. Today is a really busy day for our foundation. We have 2 shows. Then we have a health fair that I'm going to sing at, that Samantha Long from the Fair Lawn, Fair Lawn, town of Fair Lawn invited us to be a part of the health fair in general. But I had 2 shows this morning, and I didn't want to put through Judy through changing everything. So we're just going today to spread some love and sharing the name of the production is Healing with Heart, and art is at the end, and music is a part of art. And Samantha Long is an incredible performer and yoga instructor. So we're really happy to get involved with that. We're also going to be doing Voices of Resilience. This Wednesday, the May 15th. We're doing this at Pair 1 at Wayne with Marlon, who's also on our board. He's doing an event there called Voices of Resilience, Stroke and Aphasia Awareness. So we're also invited to be a part of that, which we're extraordinarily happy. What we were asked to do was to really answer questions from family members as to how it feels to have had a stroke and suffer from aphasia. I think it's really important that people they know the signs of strokes and they know the recovery for strokes, but nobody really asks how it feels. And Michael could really feed into that with his experience on strokes. But we're going to get right to the show today because, of course, we have to stay on schedule. Dr. Mike's got a lot to do. I'm sure Dr. Koren's got a lot to do. We have a 10 o'clock show. And I'm going to let Judy begin by reading the press that she always does a phenomenal job. And, of course, this show or no shows for the last 10 years could be possible without our Judy. So, Judy, take it away.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Dr. Michael Evangel is a licensed chiropractor in New Jersey, an official chiropractor for Garden State Karate Games. He graduated from Montclair State College with a BA in biology in 1975 and an MA in environmental studies in 1980, and New York Chiropractic College Doctor of Chiropractic in 1985. Dr. Michael will be discussing chiropractic adjustments and how they increase muscle function in stroke patients. A study indicated that stroke patients benefited by a 64.2 increase in motor function from chiropractic care, resulting in accelerated improvement from their rehabilitation as compared to doing rehab alone. Dr. Ted Koren, D.C., graduated from Sherman College of Chiropractic as Class Valedictorian and jumped into private practice and professional involvement. He helped found Pennsylvania's only chiropractic college, where he taught for 2 years. Later, he hosted a 2-hour radio call-in show on commercial radio every week in Philadelphia called Holistic Hotline. Dr. Koren became disabled from an accident that left him in pain and disability so intense that he couldn't walk more than 10 feet at a time. He had pain and weakness of his arms, elbows, hands, wrists, upper back, and neck. By combining various techniques himself that talented chiropractors, acupuncturists, and physical therapists missed, he was able to heal his leg, back, and disc problems. Thus was born Dr. Ted's KST, known as Koren Specific Techniques. KST is a healing protocol used to locate and correct, release areas of blockage, distortion, subluxation, interference, stagnation, and other stresses in the body and mind that are often missed by most healthcare professionals. Both doctors will enlighten and educate our audience to various healing techniques. So let's welcome Dr. Mike and Dr. Koren, Ted Koren, to our show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and
Thank
Michael.
you, Judy.
Sorry, Michael, your press was in the other. Hold on a minute.
Oh,
Yes,
it's
I
all
was going to
right.
ask you if you had it, just to share a
I
little bit
have
of
it.
insight.
I have it.
Wait. And everybody, it was my fault because when I sent everybody the link, I didn't share with everybody when they needed to Zoom. So Michael's so efficient that he's like, 8:30, I'm there, 8:30. He was on at 8:30.
Okay. In fact, I got a call from our other guest that said, what, 8:30? And I said, no, 10 o'clock.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Do you want me to read Michael's?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry about that, Michael.
Oh, not a problem at all.
Okay. Michael Irwin suffered a hemorrhagic stroke, brain bleed, September 10th, 2017. His symptoms were loss of balance, right side numbness, and slurring of his words. He spent 36 days in the hospital, first in the intensive care unit, then in a lower level ICU, and then transferred to another hospital for inpatient rehab 6 days a week. By day 3 of his journey, his family was told, oh, he's out of the woods, though they all knew that the road to recovery would be long and challenging. Eventually, he began home rehab for 8 weeks, focusing on physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech-language pathology. After some progress, his wife found a rehab facility called Steps for Recovery, and soon thereafter found the common issue of running out of insurance coverage. It is evident that most stroke survivors have standard insurance policies that typically only cover 2 months of rehabilitation. After that, patients have to find a way to cover their own rehab costs or stop doing rehab altogether, losing valuable recovery time. Many people, including Michael, need many more months of rehab to regain functional independence. This is the reason why Michael founded Believe in Stroke Recovery Foundation, with the goal to provide financial support so that stroke and brain injury survivors can continue the rehabilitation they need without worrying about the lack of insurance coverage or having to pay out-of-pocket costs. And again, welcome to all. Michael,
Yes.
Both Michaels.
Yes, thank you so
Karen.
much, everyone, for coming back. You're all return guests, and we're really happy to have you. Dr. Mike has been a guest, supporter of our show, and really a family member of our show for a long time. And personally, before the shows, Dr. Koren actually came out to one of our telethons live in Long Island, which really was a long haul. So thank you for coming live, Dr. Koren. We were honored to have you at that show. It's funny. I think that Mike, Michael, you believe, I'm going to call you Dr. Mike and you Michael in case you want a clarification on the names. But I think it's very interesting that I titled this show Another Way because, we all focus, when we go to a doctor, they have certain, work ethics and, and they live within those boundaries. But Dr. Koren, you came up with your own method because you had this situation that happened that doctors they couldn't find the cure for you. So you went and you did your own you came up with your own technique. I really think
When it comes to stroke,
what's
it's
that?
not just when it comes to stroke. My work has to do not only with treating, but with finding the cause. And
Huh?
most strokes, a tremendous number of strokes, we have to deal with what's causing it. And in a great number of people, it's dental problems,
Oh,
root canals, and infected wisdom teeth sockets. Most dentists do not properly clean out the wisdom teeth when they
wow.
remove them. Why we need wisdom teeth taken out when we never did before is another story. But in most people, the problem is that people with stroke have infected root canals, and they've had cavitations in their jaw, deep infections that affect their brain. And this is something that's written up in the literature. The only reason why I know about this is because my work is a sort of detective work, working with the body, trying to figure out what's causing the problem. And part of the problem is in this country, of course, and in many countries, that criticizing a medical dental procedure, usually you're met by crickets. Nobody
Yes,
wants to know that what they
yes.
did might be or had the dentist do. And it's, of course, we know that the COVID shot has been related to massive numbers of stroke and myocarditis and other conditions. Anyone who got the COVID shot is increasing their chance of stroke dramatically. And this is
Could I
really something that has to be discussed.
no, what I wanted to do
Go.
was, so I just wanted, because I always want to capture the moment. And you're talking about dental and you're talking about wisdom teeth taken out. I mean, how do we, when we go to the doctor, to the dentist to have those procedures, how do we assure, what can we do to assure or prevent this situation from happening?
Good
That's
question.
what came to my
Okay,
mind.
good question. The average doctor and dentist is average. They're often, they stop learning when they leave school. Same with chiropractors, actually. You have to find a specialist who's called a biological holistic dentist.
Hmm.
And they will never do a root canal. If they do, don't go to them. But usually they never do root canals, and they are sensitive to cavitations, dead areas in the jaw that are full of toxins that are like botulism. That's how they're 1,000 times more toxic than regular bacterial infections because there's no oxygen. It's anaerobic. Anyway, you have to find a biological holistic dentist. What I usually do is have the patient get a panoramic x-ray and have an expert review them. And because it's not just a matter of getting the stroke and dealing with it and trying to get people functional again, but it's also preventing it. And we have a lot of walking time bombs out there. Most people do not know that all the mercury in their mouth, all the root canals, etc., can cause serious, serious problems later in life. And this is why what part of what we really should do as healers, as doctors, is prevention, not wait for people to fall apart and say, okay, now I can work with you. That's
Right.
not really what healing is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be ideally prevention. Now, of course, chiropractic care, like what Michael, Dr. Evangel does, and I do, and the various work I do, can help people function better. And anyone who's had a stroke, aphasia, etc., should go to a chiropractor, without a doubt. There are many case studies of chiropractic bringing people back to great function. Also, I've been reading about and speaking to people who do a special form of acupuncture called scalp acupuncture, which has actually been able to reverse stroke if caught in time. So I don't do acupuncture, but this is something that should be known, because you don't want people, for example, going back to drinking diet soda and getting vaccines. They've had a stroke. Obviously, their system can't handle that.
Well,
So what you do,
go ahead.
what? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that we've had
You're
many.
breaking.
I'm breaking up. Am I breaking up?
A little.
Can
You're
everyone
better
hear
now.
me?
Now you're better.
Okay, good. So, what was I going to say? Oh, in the European, not the European, the East, the Western or the Eastern? We're Eastern. We're West. What are we?
We're Western.
We're Western. So the Eastern culture is to have an acupuncture right after a stroke. It's mandatory because we've had a lot of European acupuncturists on our show, and there was actually one woman that was a doctor when she was. Where did she come from, Judy? Do you remember?
We had one or two.
Korea or Hong Kong or
something like that. Yeah.
I'm forgetting exactly, but anyway, my understanding is that it's in their recovery once they're in the hospital.
Mandatory.
Right, to have acupuncture. So that's very interesting that the other countries handle it differently than we do.
Yeah, it's a matter of also stroke organizations which should definitely stand up against the COVID vaccine. It's causes stroke. It's known to cause stroke. Also, it causes sudden adult death syndrome, which used to be, we always heard of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, which is when babies die after they've been given a vaccine. Over 5,000 babies in the U.S. die a year from vaccine injuries. It's not politically correct to call it vaccine death, so they call it sudden infant death syndrome of unknown origin. The origin is known, and this is something that parents should be aware of, because the damage is far greater than any supposed benefit. Also, everybody who we should avoid vaccines, especially the flu shot, because they have mercury in them, which goes to the brain and has been linked to Alzheimer's. Actually, the mercury dentists use is also linked to Alzheimer's, and that's why dentists are now have probably the highest suicide rate of any profession. Well, they've always had the highest, except for psychiatrists, but that's different. The dentists also have the highest use of antidepressants, and a big reason is because they're using a mercury. That's why so many of them are not doing it anymore. Not necessarily for the patients.
But
they're doing because it's causing them to get sick.
I want to ask you something. And then we're going to get to let Mike and Dr. Mike feed in their conversation. But the only reason I'm asking this is because many, many years ago, my mother took me to a holistic doctor herself. She wanted to see where my stroke stemmed from. And are you talking about is that the same mercury that we find in tuna fish? I'm just asking to educate.
No, not really. It's, well, chemically it might be similar, but the issue is that the ingested mercury, as you have in tuna, for example, is a lot better, or you can get rid of it rather than injected. Injected is far more dangerous. If you've had mercury fillings, for example, as a kid, if you had root canals, various vaccines, you're looking at an increased incidence of stroke. And of course, even the holistic doctors, dentists are cool. The holistic dentists, they know a lot of this, but many natural holistic doctors don't, and they should. They just don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can use if you're an MD and you criticize vaccine, you can be threatened with loss of license. We're not talking about freedom here. So a
Yeah.
lot of times the public does not know what's really causing many of their health problems.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with other brain injuries like autism and ADD, etc. There's a number of things you can do. Actually, it turns out that most people are severely deficient in iodine, and that can lead to neurological problems as well as hormonal and glandular problems. It used to be that they put iodine in bread and milk in America. They stopped doing that, and they started putting in bromine, which actually is anti-iodine. It's
Wow.
very bad for the thyroid and their organs.
Dr.
So
Koren,
I have a supplement that I use for that as well.
yeah, you are so educated and you've had so many experiences that, we really should have you welcome you to a whole show on just to lay out
Yes, I think so too.
patterns. I just don't want to, I think I always feel that it's important to hear all sides to a story, and then the person has to make their own decision. But it's really important, the information that you're providing to them, that they could have another way, like we call this show, to insight. I remember you saying something about the dental, and it's good that you're bringing it back into the light. And the mercury, that they're important issues, they're important factors. I'm gonna let.
Yeah, it's illegal to use the mercury in many countries now.
Oh wow, wow, that's pretty incredible. That's pretty important information. Michael, what I know Judy said this in the press, but what was the cause of your stroke? When would you have your stroke?
I had my stroke in 9 of 2017.
Okay.
The cause of mine was high blood pressure.
Okay. Okay. And have you ever have you ever been to a chiropractor? Do you believe in?
I will plug her, Marsha Moran. I don't know if y'all know her.
Yes, she was on our show.
Oh, okay. Then you do. I know that she used chiropractor and was very successful with what technique he used. But she wrote a book, Stroke Forward.
Right.
Right.
I've been on her podcast and consider her a good friend.
Yeah. And so that leads to Dr. Mike. We're going to let you feed into the importance of that you believe that chiropractors could, and Dr. Koren said it, not only to stroke recovery, but it could help prevent a stroke as well?
There's a lot of factors that go into play here, but what Dr. Ted was saying, just to build on that a little bit, as far as when I was a child, which was quite a while ago, that only about 6% of Americans had a chronic health condition. And now it's about 60% of Americans. And 43% of children have chronic health conditions. And that's totally unacceptable, because the many can take care of the few, but the few cannot take care of the many. What's going to happen if half our country's on disability? We're really in trouble here. We have less than 5% of the world's population, and we consume over half of the world's prescription drugs, but we're about 38th in life expectancy. So if the drugs were indeed solving the problem, we'd be the healthiest country in the world. And the United States and New Zealand are the only two, countries that allow prescription advertising on television. And about half the time when people go to the doctor to get a prescription, it's because they're asking for the prescription, not because the doctor's telling the patient they need it. And it's really ridiculous. And
it tells you all the side effects, Dr. Mike.
Right.
It tells you you could even die from taking this, but get a prescription for it.
Well, the real drug cartels are the pharmaceutical companies. But nothing in the human body happens by accident. What Dr. Ted was saying, with sometimes the causes aren't really known that well to the general public, and they're hidden for a reason, because there is only one truth, but the truth is many times camouflaged are buried. And there's a new term in social media, and there's a big battle going on now with social media because, you have misinformation and disinformation, which is not the truth, but then you have malinformation, which is the inconvenient truth, things that are true, but they don't want you to know about this. There's a lot of lawsuits against the Biden administration because it seems like since President Biden has taken office, there's been a real squelching of the truth and what they want us to believe. And during the pandemic, there was a lot of the Cold War CIA tactics were used on the American public for fear and to force us to comply. And now a lot of people are realizing a number of things. Number one, that the virus really did come from the lab, not the wet market. And it really is bioengineered. And in my opinion, the father of the pandemic was Anthony Fauci, because he's the one that, really paid for through the National Institute of Health all the COVID research.
Dr. Mike, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Go ahead.
I don't want this show to go political.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I totally get it, and I totally respect your information, and I trust you, and whatever you say, I trust you. But this show, I just don't want it. It can't go political. I don't want people to tune in and tune out because you're talking about President Biden and you're talking about Dr. Fauci. We really need to stay on topic about the chiropractors. I'm sorry. I need to let the audience know that Judy knows this better than anybody. I always try to stay in the center and not get any political. So let's go.
Okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
All
let's
right.
focus on why chiropractic could help with recovery, because that was in the press, right?
Yes.
For the muscles. So focus on that. Let's focus on that.
So when you have somebody getting chiropractic care that also is recovering from a stroke, okay, they need to do a number of things. They need to have rehabilitation. They need exercises. They need to be working in rehab. But studies have found that when they get chiropractic care in conjunction with the rehabilitation, they get much, much better results for recovery. But then they also have to have proper nutrition too. There's the old joke I came up with a long time ago, you can't make an omelet without the eggs. So you have to have the ingredients to get the body to heal. And this is something that I've said in past shows, that God made the human body to be healthy and to work flawlessly when it has a proper set of circumstances. But a combination of excesses and deficiencies make us less than healthy. So the job of the physician, the chiropractor, the medical doctor, whoever they're working with, along with the patient, is to try to identify the deficiencies and increase them, identify the excesses and reduce them, allow the body's innate intelligence that is smarter than any supercomputer, make the body healthy, which is what God designed us to do. And what Dr. Ted was saying about those cavitations and the pockets of toxicity, if you don't know they're there, you can't address them. And we don't know what we don't know. But going back to the chiropractic care, it increases motor function. And there's nerve impulses that go from the brain down the spinal cord to the muscles through our nerves, okay? And if you don't have proper nerve supply, you cannot get proper function. And what chiropractic does in general is it helps people to get proper function. And what Dr. Ted does with Koren specific technique is it looks at not only where to do the adjustments, but all the other things that are involved, like I was saying before, all the excesses and deficiencies, and try to get to the root cause of the problem. Because nothing in the human body happens by accident. People say sometimes it was bad luck, I had a stroke. It was bad luck, I got cancer. No, there was a cause for the cancer. There was a cause for the stroke. Sometimes multiple factors go into play. Usually there are more than one factor.
Right. And I mean, that's because you've done the KST on me.
Yes.
You've done it on me. And I think it's very interesting. Is it part of the technique when you put your hands on my head? Is that part of
Right. I'll let Dr. Ted explain that, but occipital drop, the
Yes,
OD. Go ahead,
because
Dr.
I
Ted.
think I think it's fascinating to me. You could actually see whether I'm aligned or so. Dr. Ted, feed into that a little bit.
It's a way of asking the body questions. It's called body biofeedback, and you use the skull as a yes/no device, but that's just one of dozens or even hundreds of biofeedback devices. It's just one way we use. However, sometimes some of the work that has to be done on the skull, cranial bones, and that can affect brain function. So we actually are working on the skull itself, partially to move the bones back in place, you could say, to permit cerebral spinal fluid inside the brain to flow better and to release tension on the brain. Sometimes, believe it or not, a fall on the tailbone can cause problems to the brain because the meninges, there's wrappings around the brain. It's like saran wrap. And it wraps around the brain and goes down your back, your spine, and attaches to the tailbone. And if you have a trauma to the tailbone, a bad fall, you can actually put pressure on the brain itself. So it's a matter of analyzing the body, finding out what it wants, and releasing pressure on the nervous system, because stroke is of course manifest in the brain function, muscle, and of course the nerves control the muscles. So when you have the nerves working properly, energy flowing better, the muscles will function better. There'll be better balance and coordination, and that's what Dr. Mike has been doing a long time. And it's a matter of actually one way of training a person, which could help with aphasia, is to work on them while they're trying to speak, or they're exhibiting what causes the most damage. And as they're trying to do that, there are blockages in the body that show up, and you work on those blockages. It's putting someone in the posture of stress. And the posture of stress can be physical or emotional. It's quite possible that stroke victims need to be worked on for emotional stress that's locked in their bodies, as well as physical stress.
Right,
So
because it is a brain
you have to
trauma.
look at the whole person. It's
And
a
it's
brain
asking-
trauma.
It's asking the body yes and no questions, because with KST, the way Dr. Ted developed it, it's only as good as the question you ask the body.
Oh,
Because if you don't ask the right question, you don't get the right answer. And it's yeses and nos. That's it. You can't ask any other question than that.
That's binary.
Right.
and I have a question. I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask this anyway. How do you get the answer?
The body responds. It's like your body has many little lie detectors. And it's sort of like using a lie detector to see if your body says yes or no. It's a stress response. It's pretty basic. They use lie detectors in corporate and police situations to see if a person has increased stress when they're asked a certain question. After you get the baseline, then you ask the stress, and then you get yeses and nos. And Michael, as Dr. Evangel, has been involved in law enforcement many times, and I'm sure he's had lie detectors put on him. Did you pass, Michael?
I cannot confirm or deny.
Okay, but
Very
a lie detectors. I don't. And I'm going to ask you this, Dr. Mike. A lie detector, you're hooked up to something.
Right.
I don't remember being hooked up to anything.
No, you're
You're
not.
actually doing that with your hands.
Right. You can do it in the air. When you do it behind the head, it's called the occipital drop, of the OD for short. And if the thumbs are even, okay, that's a no. And if the one thumb's below the other one, it's a yes. Okay, so that's a yes and a no. So that's
from my vibrations. Is that from my vibrations? Is that from how do you like?
What's called innate.
What makes your fingers move?
Well, it's innate to innate communication. I'm asking your body a question. Your body's giving me the answer.
Okay.
It's like applied kinesiology, aka muscle testing. People see that all the time. It's just one of many ways of getting information from the body. And when people really do it for a while, now we teach non-chiropractors as well as chiropractors. We have and non-doctors. We've had many lay people come to seminars because there's no law against working on yourself. Not yet, anyway. So we're able to actually teach people to work on themselves and on their family members. And that it saves them a tremendous amount of money, and they get the immediate help. It also works with allergies, with dyslexia, reading disorders, and learning disorders, uh, whatever, phobias, post-traumatic stress. In fact, I might be going to Israel soon to work on people for post-traumatic stress disorder.
Wow.
It's a matter of releasing bad, you can say bad habits or bad reflexes in the nervous system. You're doing a reboot, a pattern interrupt,
Wow.
and it's helping the body reorganize in a healthier way. So that's why it helps the nervous system. So anyone with a stroke, anyone with aphasia, definitely should go to a chiropractor. If they do KST, that's a tremendous bonus because the work is very specific and works specifically on the brain, on the skull, on the nervous system. So that
Wow.
should.
So, Dr. Mike, do you only, because you only did it on me, the KST. Do you do regular chiropractic as well, or do you really only use Dr. Koren's technique?
Well, I use a lot of different things. I have a lot of different things in my toolbox, but the primary thing is KST that I use.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Now, I can only speak about myself because I've been to Dr. Mike. So, Dr. Mike, I know we did it like it was a few years ago because it was, I actually went in for my knee, but you were doing the TSC on TST, KST on me technique. So do we need to go in on a regular basis to get rechecked? I mean, what's that philosophy?
Well,
That's ideal.
we're constantly having, traumas, both physical traumas, mental, psychological traumas, and also chemical traumas in our body. So our body a lot of times needs to get tuned up. You won't stop brushing your teeth because you brush your teeth one time.
Right.
And, you need to have some type of maintenance. And depending upon the individual patient would determine how many times they should be coming in. It could be like once a month. It could be once a week. I had one plumber that was a patient of mine, used to come in twice a week for years because he was constantly traumatizing himself every day.
Yeah, yeah.
So it depends on the individual.
Okay, so I remember, and I'm just talking back, I remember you're getting the answer from my body through my skull, and then you put what was it that you did? What's the follow-up to that? What's the follow-up to that?
Well, the adjustment.
The adjustment. But the adjustment isn't with your hands. It's with the
instrument. You can do it. You can do it with your hands. You can do it with an instrument. You can do it many ways. You can do it with what's called an activator gun, a little clicking device.
Right,
There's
and
many
that's what
ways.
you used on me. That's what you used on me.
I used a machine on you. I used the
Yes, but it wasn't an activating gun?
no.
Oh, I don't
No, that
remember.
was probably another chiropractor you went to.
No, I've never been. I don't think I've ever been to another chiropractor.
No?
I think you're it, Dr. Mike.
Oh, thanks.
You're it.
I did want to go over a couple of statistics that came across that
Okay.
were very interesting. We said before about the 64.2% increase in motor function. That was based upon plantar flexion of the foot. That's the strength of the foot that we're basing upon that. But all the other muscles of the body also should be equally affected in a positive way from chiropractic adjustments. And also, there's a lot of misinformation, like I was saying before, going around. And something that was trying to be spread about chiropractors quite a while ago is that we cause people to have strokes. But there's no real scientific evidence to, show that that's the case.
I just want to add something, Dr. Mike. I heard that too. And somebody I know claimed that from an adjustment on the neck, he claimed he had a stroke.
Now, there's sometimes there could be a correlation because somebody could be going to the chiropractor because they have neck pain because in the process of a stroke brewing, and then they had the adjustment, because the chiropractor might not have recognized what was occurring. So that sometimes, can occur because correlation does not equal causation. If something occurs at the same time, doesn't necessarily mean that, there was a cause and effect relationship. Dr. Ted, you want to add that to that?
Oh, that's right. I mean, what we look at is the whole person, and sometimes it could be nutritional, it could be emotional, it could be dental, it could be due to toxicity. People get exposed to really nasty things. It could be diet, so I was studying recently, well, more than recently, about iodine, for example, used to be in our diets. And since they did studies with rabbits and gave them super high cholesterol, and the rabbits' arteries caked up with, caked up. But the rabbits that had enough iodine, no cholesterol buildup in any of their arteries. So it could be that there could be a deficiency in certain nutrients that causes a person to have a stroke as well. And of course, and high blood pressure. High blood pressure is terribly controversial these days. Studies are showing now that you need salt to prevent high blood pressure. Especially, but not
That's
the
pretty interesting.
salt, sea salt.
But not table salt, though.
Salt. Not table salt. That's garbage. Sea salt. Yeah, natural sea salt, because that has 84 micronutrients, and table salt has a couple. So, and it's not in the right balance with everything else. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of things. You have to look at the person, the individual. And I don't know, Mike, do you have the statistics and how is there more stroke today than ever before?
Oh, I was just going to go into that. Thank you for the lead in. It's the number one cause of long-term disability, and 17 million people worldwide have a stroke now every year. And 5 million of those people end up having permanent disabilities. 26% are under the age of 65, and actually 13 in 100,000 children are now suffering a stroke every year. And about a third of them suffer from depression after a stroke, not necessarily because, there's any biological change in them, but it's depressing to have a stroke. I mean, obviously, just like it's depressing to break your leg. Having any type of injury or surgery is, trauma to the body. And I always love that commercial that it was for the hospital for special surgery in New York. They said a minor surgery is one that happens to somebody else in the commercial.
That's
Can
good.
I ask you a question, Dr. Mike?
Yes.
If you have neck pain, severe neck pain, is there another way besides twisting the neck when a chiropractor twists your neck?
Yes.
Is there another way to solve that problem without having your neck twisted?
Yes, with KST, we don't do twisting of the neck, and also there's a lot of other techniques that don't involve, twisting of the neck or a manual adjustment of the neck.
Is that a dangerous thing to do? Because that's what I heard was dangerous in possibly causing a stroke if the chiropractor didn't do it right.
Well,
there were studies done showing that the chance of getting a stroke are the same as if you go to an MD and get an aspirin. There's what happened was this was so-called research put in a medical journal, and when they investigated it, they found out that most of these people were not trained, were massage therapists, were blind. One was a blind Indian masseuse.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was really sloppy, poor research. They all claimed it was chiropractic, and it really wasn't.
Well, that's what I was thinking before. You have your good doctors and you have your fake doctors and you have you know what I'm saying? So it's up to the individual to really get credibility.
Right. But there's good and bad in every profession. Some butchers are like surgeons and some surgeons are like butchers.
For testimonials, for history, for, before you go to them. Yeah. I mean, even we talk about advocates on the show. Can you hear me? Because I know my internet connection unstable message came up. We always talk about advocates, right? Because when you go to the ER and you're there, you're under a doctor's care, which you didn't pick him. So you have to have a family of advocates there, and you have to have selected people to be your advocate for you to protect you, through all that. Michael, did you have an
Yes,
advocate?
I'm sorry. I did
Go ahead.
have a few questions.
Okay.
Um, is there a specialist in chiropractic that handles aphasia? In other words, if a person has aphasia, how do they pick a chiropractor to go to?
Well, then, well, with KST, and Dr.
I'm
Teddy,
sorry, that is KST.
right, Koren specific technique.
Okay.
That's very
We'll
coincidental.
send you the
Happens to have
press.
Dr. Koren's name in it.
Well, Michael, we'll send you the press. So you can
We
have
have
all
a
the
list,
information on Dr. Koren.
Okay,
yeah, we
well,
have a list of doctors who have been properly trained. And if you write to me, I can give me your zip code. I can tell you somebody near you.
Okay,
Oh, that's great. I'm
perfect.
going to do that.
Okay.
with KST, we don't treat aphasia. We don't treat any condition. We find imbalances in the body, correct the imbalances, then the body takes care of itself.
Yes.
Is that right, Dr. Ted?
Oh yeah, yeah. You're. It's ideally you're trying to find out where there are blockages preventing a person from healing themselves and functioning better. Because you want a person with a stroke to start healing themselves and getting better. You want them to have more to recover, the brain to come back. You want other parts of the brain to take over damaged areas. So what this work does is helps the body, speeds up the body's healing ability.
So
And
y'all
sometimes it's remote.
recommend that anybody with aphasia find a chiropractor that does the KFT technique, and they go to them instead of as well as a speech therapist.
I want to chime in. I think you need to have your tool belt around you, and you need to work with everybody, whatever works for you as an individual. You try it, you test it. Speech therapy. We don't want to give the wrong information that, oh, you can only do the KST. That will heal you. I really think you need to have a circle around you and to test things out. We only provide information to everybody. I will tell you that I have been to Dr. Mike, and I've done this, and and I believe in it. That's personally. I don't want to give any false advertisements, but for me, Dr. Mike has been a lifesaver.
Yeah, that's why her face is there.
Hi, how are you? I see a little boy down there.
Oh, you do, don't you?
Hello, beautiful.
Hi.
Hi.
Mordecai, say hi, Mordecai. Say
Hi.
hi. Well,
Hi.
Hello.
well, Mordecai has. Yes.
Why say that? Why say that?
Why am I saying that?
Why is that really saying that?
Oh, well, because there's a little camera right there where that green light is, so it's taking your picture.
Yeah.
It's making.
Oh, there's your daughter.
No, but you're close. She's around
Granddaughter.
somewhere. No, I'm staying at a home in a friend's home right now.
Okay. Okay. So we only have a few more minutes, but I want to, Michael, does that make sense to you but I really believe that we'll connect you to Dr. Koren, and he
I
can send you
appreciate
the
it.
information.
We get, I believe, we get a lot of people and a lot of aphasia. We always are looking for great advice, and nobody has ever pushed me towards a chiropractor.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to push you. We want to educate you to
Well,
make
okay.
that. I'm saying, no, I'm just saying, like, to make that decision. And I really believe it balances you. I believe, and once again, this is personal. I believe in chiropractors. I believe in acupuncture. I believe in doctors. I believe that you have to have your circle around you to be successful in your life,
Yeah.
and you do need to make your own decisions on which ones you choose, because different ones are for different people. I see Dr. Mike chomping there, wanting to say something, and I love you, Dr. Mike. Go ahead, say it.
Okay, just want to finish my statistics that I was on before. And I left off with depression. About 1/3 have depression. About 40% have a loss of function of an upper limb at the 1 year point. And 40% also have problems with swallowing. About a third have aphasia, and 15% are incontinent after a year. And there's also many times deficits in memory and attention, concentration, perception, spatial awareness, coordination, and executive functioning. And there's great improvement when you have a combination of treatments, like you were saying, Renee, working with a speech therapist, having exercise program, a good diet, stress reduction, chiropractic. There's a lot of different things that go into play to, get somebody in recovery. And the point that Dr. Ted was talking about before, which is very important, that we need to educate people, and this is a show for another time, we have done this in the past, about how to avoid having a stroke to begin with. And we touched on some of those things today.
Yeah. And that's why we named this show Another Way, because, this Dr. Koren's technique is really, it is another way. It is another avenue that people can kind of go down. Dr. Mike is very holistic in his mind thought, and he has so much information. And I asked him the other day, is all he does is study and research, because he does so much of that. And every time when I have a question, he's the one I call, because he's the one that I trust in his thought process and his information. But I got to tell you that I do call a lot of people, and I listen to a lot of people, because I think it's my job to do my homework before I make a decision to move forward. So I think that, Dr. Mike, I want to come to you, because I know this show was about muscles, and I have the, what do you call that, atrophy, when it's
right.
when it's short, it's tight, and every winter I just keep it tight to my body, and it is shortening. So I'm going to come to you, and we're going to do some.
Is there exercises you can do to loosen it up?
Probably, but what happens is it's since it's been cold, it doesn't matter how much workout I do, because when it gets cold, I get like this. Like, honestly, in the perfect world, I would move to Florida and be in the heat all the time. You know what I'm saying?
But can you take your hand and stretch your arm out?
Yeah, but not to the extent that I should. Not to it is atrophy is coming to me. It is. It's that way. And I do want to start to make sure that I catch it at some point, so it's not. Michael, do you have muscle issues? Do you have muscle?
Yeah, I do in my right arm. I try, and I'm always open to trying some new technique. But I've got full feeling in my arm, but I keep my fist clenched, and I can't seem to open it, except at night when I go to sleep. My wife likes to play with my hand, and lo and behold, my subconscious, it will just take my hand, and she has video of me asleep, and my hand will do things that nobody seems to be able to explain. I just got through with a hypnotic therapist, but no cigar.
Well, you keep trying, and maybe this will help you. Maybe this will find out what it is that's happening, and help you to recover from that, So I know it's 9:59. I want to give everybody a few last words. Dr. Mike, you can go first, and then Dr. Koren, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, and you could give
In a minute.
your last. What's the final few words you want to give, Dr. Mike, to everybody?
Well, I think I said just about everything I want to say. It's just that you have to really be your own advocate and do your own investigations, because a lot of times, the truth, like I said, is out there, but sometimes the mainstream media doesn't necessarily give you the best information. So you really have to look to alternate sources to figure out what the best course of action is. And it takes research to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And the truth is, like, you know, like with all media, they only give a portion of the whole story. So you do have to, you know, if you hear something, you need to educate yourself on that topic so that you're, you know, and to broaden your scope of information. You know, you need to go to go to your doctor, ask your doctor. You need to really broaden your scope of understanding. Dr. Koren,
Yes,
we're at 10 o'clock, 10:01, we're 1 minute over. Could you I really thank you for being a part of our show today. I really believe in your technique. I personally, I've had it with Dr. Mike, so I'm an advocate for it. Personally, I don't give anybody any false information. But thank you for coming on the show today. Is there anything that anything that you want to share the last words to our audience?
no, just don't give up. There's a lot of things that are known by natural healers that the regular trained doctors are ignorant about. And we have to just keep an open mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think we do need to go. Say it again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my God, that we're honored to have you, honestly, because we know how busy you are. And when you go to Israel, please we carry us with you, because we're praying for everybody over there. We're praying for everybody over there.
Thank you.
Mike, we'll see you in the next show. And Judy, do you have any last comments about this show? It was a
I just
great
want to
show.
say that this show is so educational, and that I learned some new things about flu shots, and I learned about mercury and more about Dr. Koren's techniques. And I'm going to be writing to Dr. Koren to find out who does it in Suffolk County.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Judy and Mike will see you in a few minutes. And I'm going to stop the streaming in 2 seconds. We always blow our kisses. Would you like to, what's his name again?
Mordecai.
You want to join us in blowing kisses? On 3, we always blow kisses. 1, 2, 3.
Not interested.
That's okay. We totally get it. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va a pasar. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti, no me puedes oír llorar. El día que caminaste por la puerta, todas las memorias fueron. Mi corazón está vacío, como si tuviera ayer. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír
broken man, alone on the river with my heart in my hand. The conversation, they're all dead. The lines cut off inside my head. I left here like a broken man with no idea of where I stand.